Okay, so this video is here to explain what happens when you have Mercury in the fifth house in your birth chart. So what is the fifth house? The fifth house is originally ruled by Sun and Leo. The fifth house represents dating, romance, children, creativity, and it also is associated with education. It's associated with learning. It's associated with politics. Because the Sun, which is the original ruler of the fifth house, it represents authority and power. It represents a government. It represents like a king. So all of that is associated with, like politics and stuff. So the fifth house is associated with politics. And because 5 places from the fifth house is the ninth house, and 9 places from the ninth house is the fifth house, there's like a connection between the fifth and ninth house. And we know that the ninth house is associated with education, higher education, teaching, like getting like a top-notch master degree in education. And that's what the ninth house is associated for. So the fifth house is sort of like a lesser version of the ninth house. The fifth house is all about, sort of wanting to learn and research. The fifth house is sort of like students, because the fifth house is associated with children, and the ninth house is teachers. And the relationship between a teacher and a student can be similar of that of a relationship between a father and a son, or a mother and a son, or a mother and daughter, whatever. A parent. It can be a relationship between a student and teacher can be similar to parent and child. So the fifth house is associated with children, and also could be sort of associated with students and wanting to research and wanting to learn. So having good prominent placements in the fifth house, or having a good, strong, well-placed fifth house lord, can get you started on the right track and path to maybe being interested in wanting to learn and teach and research astrology if you're interested in doing that. So what is Mercury? Mercury represents siblings. Mercury represents written communication. Mercury represents using your intelligence, your calculative, logical, practical intelligence to resolve problems and conflicts. Mercury is quick intelligence, because it's a quick, fast-moving planet. Mercury originally rules the third house and the sixth house. It originally rules Gemini and Virgo. That's essentially it for what Mercury represents. Is a pretty simple planet. It's not really too complex of a planet. So when you put Mercury in the fifth house, this is a good position, in my opinion, to have Mercury in the fifth house. So with Mercury here, since the fifth house also represents romance and dating, and Mercury is associated with written communication, this could make somebody very flirtatious, possibly, with Mercury in the fifth house. They are now exercising their intelligence to, communicate with people on in the dating world in a romantic manner. They can use their intelligence and their natural, gifts of communicating to maybe be very flirtatious or slick and silver-tongued when it comes to wooing and charming a person of interest. Someone with Mercury in the fifth house, they might love to exercise their intelligence and their knowledge on children. So someone here, they might be real interested with working with children and teaching children and stuff. Someone with Mercury in the fifth house, they could develop maybe a great interest in politics. They could use their intelligence to maybe quickly learn, politics, or just quickly learn and research and study things that are going on around the world in general. Or use that intelligence to learn and study astrology or spiritual and religious things. Someone with Mercury in the fifth house, they would want to possibly use their intelligence to make gains off of their creativity, off of their individual hobbies, because the fifth house is also associated with creativity. Because think about it, it's associated with children. Children are very creative and imaginative, and the fifth house is just this fun house that's associated with like individual hobbies. You know, dating can be fun and stuff. Sex and romance and all that stuff, that can be fun. So the fifth house is sort of like a fun house, and Mercury uses his intelligence in this fun little playhouse. So Mercury in the fifth house can be very skilled or intelligent when it comes to communicating, working with, and dealing with children. And because Mercury aspects the 11th house of large social network circles, organizations, and gains, Mercury could want to make gains from his his individual creativity and individual hobbies. So if you're just very good at, maybe, I don't know, doing impersonations, or if you're very good at, I don't know, anything, if you're very good at something, gambling, card tricks, video games, just sitting at home, being on Twitch or whatever, if you're very skilled at that, Mercury here can make you use your intelligence to figure out a way to make gains with it. Figure out a way to integrate your individual skills, talents, and hobbies with people on a larger basis, on a larger scale, so that you can bring in financial gains. That's what you can possibly see if you have Mercury sitting in the fifth house in your chart. And that's essentially it. You know, Mercury aspects the 11th house. So Mercury would constantly be wanting to maybe mingle and possibly be flirtatious with other people, because the fifth house is associated with romance, and the 11th house is associated with large social network circles and organizations and gains. So Mercury's already sitting in this flirtatious, fun, and intellectual house, and he's looking at the house that's associated with making gains through working together with people, or through leading people and networking with people. So here, Mercury could just be really flirtatious, and also maybe very silver-tongued and skilled with communicating with people and dealing with people and making gains from their flirtatiousness, through their networking, through their individual hobbies and skills. They could excel very potentially. If they're interested in astrology or some type of academic field, they could possibly figure out a way to utilize their intelligence to make gains through their intelligence, or to maybe network and find the right people who can get them closer to the goal that they're trying to achieve. And that's essentially all I have for you if you have Mercury sitting in the fifth house in your birth chart. I hope this gave you great insight and clarity on what to expect if you have Mercury in the fifth house in your birth chart, and thank you for watching this video.